A member on our side will speak in concluding on this matter, then another member on their side, and we'll draw the curtains on the subject matter at discussion. Speaker, so on our side, the former Defense Minister, Honorable Niti, will speak, and then I don't know if Kwame will speak or anybody on their side will be elected to speak. Speaker, I think, if for nothing at all, I'm a fourth-term member in this House. And when we came, this is not how we behave. Honorable member, humble yourself and learn. What is that? Leadership has engaged the speaker and you are there throwing comments. Learn to take a cue from your leadership. That is how you grow in this House.
Mr. Speaker, Mr. Speaker, Mr. Speaker, Mr. Speaker.
Honorable member, please, I beg of you. Please.
Mr. Speaker.
Yes, leader.
I sympathize with my colleague, but he should note that as for the heckling, I saw people heckling me when I was also speaking. So that admonishment is bringing should have been for both sides, not for one side. Yes, Mr. Speaker, we met, and then their side brought a proposal that they feel strongly, Honorable Nito, our colleague who was the immediate past defense minister, strongly feels about saying something. I suggested, with their numbers versus our numbers, if one person speaks on the other side, it should be at least two people speaking on our side. Hold on, I'm just narrating. You see, just few minutes ago, my respected colleague on your side was speaking, and when other people commented, he was throwing his hands all everywhere. Yet you didn't take a cue from him. You were doing the same thing to me. You see, but then, Mr. Speaker, you suggested that that formula has to come officially to you. But Mr. Speaker, it is no doubt that if you were to be doing 1-1, even on a budget day or anything, you realize that only a quarter or 1/3 of the people on my side will speak, because that is the ratio. But on this occasion, Mr. Speaker, we have agreed. Let our colleague, the former defense minister, speak, and when he finishes, if it's about me, I'll make a short comment, but we'll let the person who led us to uncover the travels of President Akufo-Addo on commercial on rented jets. Honorable Okujeto is here. He will lead us to respond to him appropriately.
Yes, Speaker. So he's saying the same thing, except that he's veering off. So one apiece, one on our side, one on their side. You can't reinvent the rules. In this House, it has never happened that people who speak on the floor, we use ratio to do it. No. Composition of committees, yes, ratios are used. But it is not when we want to make members speak on the House. That matter, it doesn't come in. So, Speaker, not to rehash the agreement. One here, one there. They can elect to bring anybody, Ola, whatever, or whoever. We are ready. Once the former deputy minister, once the former minister is allowed to speak, then we can hear them. Speaker, you see, you have business to prosecute. You have government business to prosecute. If you go on this tangent, you can never prosecute your government business. So, Speaker, without adding more, the minister, the former defense minister, is ready to speak.
Yes. Honorable Dominic.
Mr. Speaker, thank you very much. First of all, let me thank leadership and your good self for bringing order to the House. This House is a house of records. And so I just wanted to place on record the correct information. I'm not here to do propaganda. I'm not here to say anything about anybody. I'm just here to correct something that the Honorable Chief Whip made or said. Nothing more, nothing less. First of all, he said Akufo-Addo has not traveled on commercial aircraft. I want to say that President Akufo-Addo has traveled on numerous occasions on the same Emirates before. In fact, on some of the occasions, he went to Honorable Asenso. He's here. You can verify for him. I have the privilege as Minister for Defense to always be at the airport when the president is traveling, and your minister will do same. So I have the records. In fact, I am aware that the president has traveled to the UK numerous times on British Airways. We always had to be there between 10 and 11 for him to go. I'm aware that the president had to travel on Qatar Airways numerous times. So I'm just giving that information to Parliament and to the House. And for it to enter the hands that President Nana Addo Dankwa Akufo-Addo has traveled on commercial aircraft several times, not once, and I've mentioned at least 3 airlines. Can I finish? The second thing I want to correct is that President Akufo-Addo has not rented any private jet to travel within the country. West Africa, yes. Outside West Africa, yes. But in the country, no. That is also not correct, because that's what you said, that is rented jets and is traveling within the country. And Mahama will not do that. It's not also true. The third one I want to state is that ever since we took that aircraft to France for it to be done properly, it took almost 6 months, about 6 months to 7 months for it to be fitted properly and brought back. President Akufo-Addo has been using it. In fact, even I think 2 days before he handed over, he used that aircraft. President Akufo-Addo has used that aircraft for the last 8 months. So it is not as if we were not using that aircraft and now we want President Mahama to use it. It's not a true story. President Akufo-Addo has been using it ever since it returned from France. That's the third point I want to make. And the last point I want to make and still make, which is the last point I want to make and still make, is that President Mahama, when that aircraft was not available, rented aircrafts, private jets, and used outside the country. Yes. Yes. I say yes, that I can say that for a fact. Ask him himself. Ask President Mahama himself. I'm saying you don't have the information, but you ask him himself. Ask him, sir. He will tell you that yes, he did when he was president. So these are the 4 things I wanted to say. I'm not saying any controversial thing. I'm not bringing any new facts. These are just the 4 things I wanted to say. That one, President Akufo-Addo has traveled on numerous occasions with commercial jets, commercial aircrafts. I've mentioned the names. 2, President Akufo-Addo has not traveled and has not rented any private jet to be traveling around the country. 3, President Akufo-Addo. Yes, I just repeated what I said. So it's in the hands that, Mr. Speaker, I thank you very much. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Honorable Abuja, please. What we agreed, if you are speaking, then it means you speak and you close the chapter. Please, so that we can move on, please. You have already spoken 2 times on this particular issue. Yes. So, Honorable Leader of the House, you are still leader. Until you are sworn in, we will still consider you as leader.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Mr. Speaker, I am still the leader of the House. And I have not been sworn in as the Minister of Finance. Mr. Speaker, God willing, tomorrow, Right Honorable Speaker, God willing, tomorrow, the NDC caucus, the majority caucus, will designate our front bench. That will be done tomorrow. But Mr. Speaker, in the meantime, let me state for the records that after consulting with my chief whip, he never said that President Akufo-Addo never traveled on private jet.
He said what? You were the only one who heard it. You were the only one who heard it.
Never traveled commercial. Mr. Speaker, he's here. But Mr. Speaker, again for the records. Right Honorable Speaker, again for the records. I traveled with the President Mahama, in his recent trip to the UAE. He did not use private jet. I was on the flight. with him. We use Emirates. So let no one create. And Mr. Speaker, the immediate past defense minister made a statement that President Mahama traveled on a private jet, rented a private jet. I challenge him to bring us evidence now. I challenge him to bring us evidence now. Mr. Speaker, you cannot just make statements without justifications. You can't. You can't. Bring us evidence to prove that he has traveled or rented a private jet. Mr. Speaker, the President Mahama was sworn in on the 7th. On the 7th. No, but so you are saying when he was president, when? 2013. Mr. Speaker, you've seen that he's changing the goalpost. You are changing the goalpost. You are changing the goalpost. When they are harassing him, you do it for they don't do it. Mr. Speaker, so Mr. Speaker, the honorable member for Bimbila is now saying President Mahama traveled on rented a private jet when he was in the past, not recently. It's not even true. It's not even true. It's not even true. Challenge
them. Two of them are similar, and another one. So we will start from Honorable Sosu. Then we come to Honorable Asenso Boache and Honorable Emir. Emir and Asenso Boache are similar, so we take them together. Then we will discuss. Then finally we come to Manson Kwanta. So we have four statements. So we will start with Honorable Sosu. We should have taken that one yesterday, but because of the appointment committee's report, we couldn't take them. So, Honorable Sosu, you may read your statement now.
Thank you very much, Right Honorable Speaker. Mr. Speaker, this is a statement on Ghana's leadership in ensuring the full implementation of the African Continental Free Trade Area Agreement, AfCFTA. Mr. Speaker, on 7th December 2024, Ghanaians went to the polls to vote to reset the nation. During his inauguration on 7 January 2025, His Excellency President John Dramani Mahama vowed to collaborate with other African countries to deepen integration and regionalism and to fashion common solutions for Africans' challenges. Based on His Excellency's commitment, Mr. Speaker, I make this statement to remind us of our collective duty in ensuring that Ghana plays a leadership role in championing the full implementation of the African Continental Free Trade Area Agreement, headquartered here in Accra, and outline some actionable steps for sustained leadership. Mr. Speaker, in January 2012, at the 18th Ordinary Session of the Assembly of Heads of State and Government of the AU, which took place in Ethiopia, the Assembly of Heads of State adopted a landmark decision to ensure that there is an establishment of Continental Free Trade Area by 2017. The purpose was the progressive elimination of tariff and non-tariff barriers for mutually beneficial trading regimes among member states. Also, the heads of state endorsed an action plan to boost intra-Africa trade, also known as Boosting Intra-Africa Trade, BIAT. The BIAT recognized 7 main priority areas of action to promote its cause, namely trade policy, trade-related infrastructure, trade finance, trade facilitation, productive capacity, trade information, and factor market integration. Mr. Speaker, the potential of the Africa Continental Free Trade Area Agreement to unify 54 African states, representing over 1.2 billion people and with a combined GDP of over $3.4 trillion, reflects the continent's strategic commitment to collective prosperity. This momentum was further reinforced with Agenda 2063, adopted during the Golden Jubilee of the OAU in 2013, which envisioned a structurally transformed Africa under the banner of the Africa we want. In June 2015, at the 25th AU Summit of the Heads of State, the Head of State added another resolution to the commencement negotiation targeted at the creation of the AfTA, where the focus was heavily placed on the liberalization of trade in goods and services in Africa. Subsequently, on the 30th day of May 2012, the agreement of the Continental Free Trade Area entered into force when 24 countries deposited their ratification instrument. The operational phase of the agreement was launched in Niamey, Niger, in July 2019, and official trading under the agreement commenced after Johannesburg's declaration on the first day of January 2021. Mr. Speaker, current projections of the AfTA's outcome are very positive. According to the World Bank study, quote, AfTA can provide this spark. By 2035, we estimate that implementing the agreement will contribute to lifting an additional 30 million people from extreme poverty and 68 million people from moderate poverty. Real income gains from full implementation of the agreement could increase by 7% and nearly 450 billion US dollars. As African economies struggle to manage the consequences of COVID-19, AfTA can provide an anchor for long-term reform and integration. Mr. Speaker, it is my respectful view that the 24-hour economy, which is an industrial revolution policy which strives and benefits immensely from the full implementation of the African Continental Free Trade Area, as Ghana will tend to have an expanded market. Mr. Speaker, despite the promising prospects of AfTA, significant challenges remain. As highlighted by the World Bank, full implementation could lift 30 million people from extreme poverty and generate real income gains of over $450 billion by 2035. However, the projections hinge on African governments taking steps to harmonize their trade laws and surrounding element of sovereignty for the collective good of the continent. Mr. Speaker, for the AfTA agreement not to remain only an ideology, African governments must show political will and commitment to amend their local trade and investment laws and their treaty obligations to that of their domestic laws for benefit of the entire continent. Mr. Speaker, the AfTA presents transformative opportunity for local businesses, including those in Medina constituency where I come from. By facilitating expanded markets and enhancing industrial output, Ghana's 24-hour economic policy could flourish, creating jobs and driving economic growth. This integration, Mr. Speaker, will position Medina and similar constituency, and indeed the entire country, to become critical hub for trade and commerce. To maximize benefits under the AfTA, I propose the following. 1, policy harmonization. Mr. Speaker, I propose that Ghana aligns domestic trade and investment laws with the AfTA agreement. 2, capacity building. Mr. Speaker, I propose that we launch educational initiative to empower local SMEs to leverage the new market opportunities under the AfTA. 3, infrastructure development. Mr. Speaker, I propose that we invest in trade-related infrastructure, including transportation and digital connectivity, to streamline intra-African trade. In conclusion, Mr. Speaker, the AfTA is a beacon of hope for Africa's economic integration. Ghana's leadership must inspire the continent, ensuring shared prosperity through unity and cooperation. Mr. Speaker, I call on this Parliament, the Trade Committee, the Ministry of Trade and Industry of Ghana, and its agencies to play a lead role in integration of all markets in Africa for the collective benefit of the people of Africa. Ghana must show leadership in this respect by prioritizing legislative and policy frameworks that will cement Ghana's role as a continental trailblazer. Together, let us make the AfCFTA a reality for the benefit of all Africans. Thank you, Mr. Speaker, for the opportunity to make this statement.
Thank you very much. Honorable members, I want to advert members' mind to our Standing Orders 94. I'm going to give you the opportunity to comment, but in order that you make time to listen to all the false statements, I'll control the time. And please indulge with me if you are going beyond the time that will be allotted to you. I hope I'm making myself clear. Very well. So let me start with Honorable Agent Sam.
Honorable Right Speaker, thank you very much. Mr. Speaker, the Continental Free Trade Area, AfCFTA, became operational since January 2021, thanks to the Nana Bawumia and the MPP administration, which has significantly influenced Ghana's economic landscape. As the host of AfCFTA Secretariat, Ghana has actively engaged in initiatives to enhance the agreement. Mr. Speaker, during the administration of the previous government, Ghana makes significant strides in advancing the African Continental Free Trade Initiative. As the host nation of the AfCFTA Secretariat, Ghana demonstrated strong commitment to the agreement's implementation. The government established the National AfCFTA Coordination Office under the Ministry of Trade and Industry to serve as a central point for coordinating Ghana's strategic and tactical response to the AfCFTA agreement. Mr. Speaker, if you indulge me, I would hereby list some of the few things that the National Coordination Office have done. Number one, the forum on the start of the trading in Ghana maiden export transaction occurred in January 21, as I indicated earlier on. With that, some two companies have been able to export alcoholic beverage and cosmetics to South Africa. Mr. Speaker, Ghana Revenue Authority, as the competent authority...
Honorable, hold on. Yes, Honorable Comfordale.
Mr. Speaker, the honorable member is to contribute to the statement, but not to do another statement by reading. He can refer to his note, but he can't pick another statement and read.
Is he reading? I don't think he's reading.
He has been reading throughout.
He was just making reference.
He has been reading throughout. He has to contribute.
Well.
It's a house of records. We have to teach them.
Well. Honorable, you may continue, but just be guided. I'm saying you may continue, but you have to be guided.
Mr. Speaker, thank you very much. I was on the point that the Continental Free Trade has a national office, and that national office has already started doing some good work. The honorable member made mention of three key areas that have challenges. One is the policy harmonization, two, capacity building, and three, infrastructure development. I am aware that in the issue of capacity building, the Ghana Export Promotion Authority and Ghana Export and Import Bank, Exim Bank, have coordinated with the national office to be able to train almost 3,162 of our Ghanaian SMEs. With that, almost 75 companies already have signed on as the have been able to register to have country of origin. Mr. Speaker, on the issue of infrastructure, I am of the firm belief that to facilitate the continental free trade, one has to have a trade facilitation in the areas of the sea, of air, and land. As I speak to you now, Ghana do not have a carrier to be able to facilitate trade between us and other countries. This challenge, if it's resolved by the current administration, will help facilitate trade. Again, in the sub-region, there is a problem now to export or ship anything between the African countries, either from Ghana to Nigeria or to East Africa. Mr. Speaker, it will be helpful that the government of Ghana will invest in the area of sea by providing ships between us and other countries to facilitate trade on the sea. On the land, I am aware that there are road construction that are going on currently that is facilitating trade on the West Africa trade border. I am also aware that we are developing a railway on the eastern corridor between us and Burkina Faso. These are the ingredients that will help in the infrastructure that will promote the continental free trade that has over 1.3 billion of consumers or of population, and that will contribute to over 3.5 billion of goods and services. Thank you very much, Mr. Speaker.
Thank you very much. Yes, let me come to the Minister Designate for Education.
Mr. Speaker, thank you very much for the opportunity as I rise to comment on the statement ably made by the Member of Parliament for Medina, the Honorable Francis Xavier Sosu, on leadership in ensuring the full implementation of the African Continental Free Trade Agreement, AfCFTA. Mr. Speaker, whilst commending him, to note that with some disappointment, Africa trades more with the rest of the world than with Africa. That is a statistical fact, that many African countries are happy doing trade and business with the rest of the world than with other African countries. Mr. Speaker, it is estimated that today trade in Africa is $192 billion, a rise of about 7.26%, and this was captured in an ECA report. Mr. Speaker, part of the problem of poor trade is bad governance. It's only in Africa you still note and observe unconstitutional changes in government that does not give assurance to businesses and to investors. Our persistent poverty remains a major problem. Then, Mr. Speaker, Africa trade, just between Ghana and Nigeria here. Nigeria has what they call restricted products from Ghana which can enter Nigeria. We can't export those products into Nigeria. Yet they can. You can use the example of Dangote cement. It's in Ghana. Do we have our own cement factory in Nigeria? What is the possibility? So we need to do more, and that is why I agree with the maker of the statement that we need to build robust infrastructure. But that will require investment. Indeed, Mr. Speaker, whilst commending the maker of the statement, I can state on authority that one of the early decisions President Mahama will take will be a major revision of the GIPC Act, the Ghana Investment Promotion Council Act, to make it more business friendly, more investor-friendly, and to meet his aspirations of running Ghana under a 24-hour economy in order that he can attract more foreign direct investment into our country. Mr. Speaker, as he stated in a paragraph, and Honorable Sosu, next time you learn, we can't get, your pages are not numbered, so next time make sure they are numbered. So, Mr. Speaker, I will labor referring you to the page and to the paragraph, but I'm sure it's in his second page. He talks about 54 African states, which has a population of 1-2 billion. That is how much gain we can make if we were to trade more. Look at cocoa, its processing in Ghana and in Africa, what the value would be if we were to do value addition to our major export product. Mr. Speaker, how many flights? I heard him talking about aviation. How many flights we have between Accra and Lagos or Abuja? Probably 1 or 2. And you are talking of African trade. It's only carrying passengers, not goods. Not goods, passengers. They are interested in some 1-2 hour flight from Abuja, Lagos to Nigeria. That is trade. But we should be talking of volumes. Mr. Speaker, I know my colleague who in his previous role housed AfCFTA, the former chief executive of Ghana Exim, and he would note with satisfaction some of the good initiatives the previous NDC government did. The Ghana Exim Bank remains the only financial institution which does not depend on savings from customers. Because what we cleverly did, Mr. Speaker, was to charge 0.5% of CIF value. Mr. Speaker, I'm here to discuss it with the President. Even for the Women's Bank, we should be looking at that option. How do we finance a Women's Bank? The development bank we have in Ghana today, what is its state? So probably for the Women's Bank, we may want to take 0.1525% dedicated to support our women who are in need of credit. We should be able to do that. So, and proudly, Mr. Speaker, I conclude. Whilst commending President Mahama and President Nana Addo Dankwa Akufo-Addo, we should also commend the late Professor J.E.A. Mills. I recall at the time in January 2012, I was in Ethiopia with him and with Alan Chirimantin then. I think he was playing some role at the African Union, and he guided some of our processes in getting Ghana to insist that the Organization of African Union, the AU, takes a major resolution on that. Mr. Speaker, what Africa needs is trade and investment. It's unfortunate that Ghana beyond 8, we could not walk the talk. With this, I thank you, Mr. Speaker.
Yes, let me give it to Honorable Member for Bosome Freho. Then I come to former Deputy Trade Minister. Bosome Freho.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker.
I'm giving the opportunity for the first time.
Thank you. Mr. Speaker, I would like to commend my brother Xavier, Honorable Member for Medina constituency, for making such a statement. Mr. Speaker, before I comment on this statement, I would like to also commend some few and key personalities of Ghana who contributed greatly to ensuring that we have AfCFTA. Particularly to mention is Mr. Kwesi Kotey, the Deputy Commissioner of the African Union. Mr. Speaker, as a young man working in African Union as at that time, I noticed the key role he played in ensuring that Ghana win that bid to host AfCFTA, which has been one of the monumental achievements of the Nana Addo Dankwa Akufo-Addo administration. Mr. Speaker, from records, it's clear that the World Bank is envisaging about $450 billion growth in this area, in this AfCFTA. Minister Designate for Education mentioned the potential growth we are looking at in AfCFTA. Speaker, they went ahead to also mention that it is going to create a possible job for about 30 million African young men and women. Mr. Speaker, how do Ghana tend to benefit from this very huge, lucrative industry that we have set up, that we are hosting? Speaker, one, as he mentioned in his statement, harmonizing policies. Mr. Speaker, it is very important that for us to make maximum benefit of this after we are hosting. Mr. Speaker, the 1D1F policy from the Nana Dankwa Akufo-Addo government must be looked at again and empowered and strengthened. Mr. Speaker, like example, we have one of the largest cabbage growing areas in my constituency, Bosomefreho. Mr. Speaker, I am urging the NDC government to come and build a cabbage processing plant in Bosomefreho so we can manufacture the cabbage and export to African countries or other places so we can make money and also employ some of the young men and women in Bosomefreho. Then maybe the 24 hours economy can also have some rippling effects there. Mr. Speaker, having said this, there are some few challenges that is confronting thereafter, which is clear. One, the Speaker, is conflict around the African area. The Minister Designate mentioned some key issues that are among them is conflict. The Speaker, we are seeing the conflict in Burkina Faso. We are seeing the conflict in Niger and other African countries, which is a key major issue that will hinder the development or the progress or the gains after is capable of making. Mr. Speaker, another thing we must look at is infrastructure. The former Exim Bank CEO mentioned some development or some projects that the SWAL administration did in ensuring that there is possible infrastructure, because Mr. Speaker, to trade in Africa is movement. It's a human movement. I mean, road, and all that. I will urge the government coming, I will urge the NDC government, Mr. Speaker, to ensure that all those projects that have been started be continued, so that the after will make maximum impact of every benefit that we have. Mr. Speaker, the last one I would mention is the slow adaptation of technology. Mr. Speaker, the last time we were talking about the e-gate at the airport. Mr. Speaker, it is one of the major issues which major African countries are even having challenges adopting. Even to adopt the whole after, it took many African countries not to even do. Why? Because they are having challenges in developing some of these technologies that can situate them comfortably in the after zone. Speaker, when we are looking at making maximum impact in this after area, let us encourage that the African partners and brothers would improve upon their technology so that we can synchronize them and make headway. Then Ghana, hosting it, can make maximum impact. Mr. Speaker, with these few words, I would like to thank you for the opportunity given.
Thank you very much. Yes. Honorable Member, please, you mention your name and your constituency because...
Thank you very much, Mr. Speaker. My name is Charles Bawadua. I'm the member for Bongo. Mr. Speaker, I want to thank you for giving me the opportunity to comment on the statement made by the Honorable Member for Medina. Mr. Speaker, I'm doing so on the authority of Order 93, Rules 4 and 5 of the standing orders of this House. Mr. Speaker, it appears to me that the African Continental Free Trade Agreement is one of those numerous treaties that African countries enter into and do not, in fact, intend to implement to their letter. The statement so made by the Honorable Member shows clearly that there appears not to be enough efforts by African countries to ensure the full implementation of the agreement. Mr. Speaker, the benefits available to Ghana and Africa in general upon the full implementation of the agreement are enormous. Mr. Speaker, we're talking of investment that will increase in many parts of Africa, and Ghana in particular, if the bottlenecks associated with investments in many countries are ironed out, which is envisaged in the agreement signed by the African countries. Mr. Speaker, we talk also of trade, better jobs, and in better jobs, I'm not talking just about the number of jobs that Ghanaians and Africans stand to enjoy, but also the quality of those jobs. Mr. Speaker, in the manifesto of the NDC, which led to a massive victory by His Excellency Don Dramani Mahama, one of the key policies therein is the 24-hour economy, Mr. Speaker. Mr. Speaker, I'm sure that many of the youth of this country were influenced by the impact of the 24-hour economy that they stand to enjoy, and hence the way the youth voted. Mr. Speaker, the 24-hour economy will work effectively upon the full implementation of the African Continental Free Trade Agreement. Mr. Speaker, it will bring in foreign investors. It will bring in foreign companies who will establish in this country, thereby opening up the job market. Many youth will get jobs. And so I want to commend the Honorable Sesu for making this statement before the floor of this Parliament. And I want to urge the Honorable Ministers designate for Trade and also the Minister designate for Foreign Affairs to work hard to ensure that the agreement is fully implemented, not just in Ghana, but urge other countries to do so, so that we can enjoy the full effect of the agreement. Thank you very much, Mr. Speaker.
Honorable Safeji, you spoke well, nobody interrupted. And you wanted to interrupt, you are fresher.
Mr. Speaker, I was coming on a point of order.
Anyway, so honorable members, we are taking one more from each side, then we take the other statement. We have other equally important statements. So let me go to former Deputy Minister for Trade.
Thank you very much, Mr. Speaker, for the opportunity. I rise to make a comment on a statement made by Honorable Susu. I guess this statement is a very important one for the simple reason that the African Continental Free Trade Area has come to stay, whether we like it or not. I have said it time and time again that this is a concept that has come to stay and we cannot do anything about it. The good news about this concept is that the African Continental Free Trade has become the biggest customs union in the world. It used to be the ACP Customs Union, but now it has taken over as the biggest customs union in the world. And for the records, out of the 55 African countries in Africa, 54 have signed the agreement and 46 have ratified the agreement, which means that it is going very well. The focus areas of this concept is in the area of agriculture, automotive industry, pharmaceutical industry, and logistics. Mr. Speaker, the African Continental Free Trade Area is an opportunity for Africans for the first time to explore Africa so well and trade amongst ourselves to be able to generate good things from this concept. There are a lot of good opportunities available in the concept in the area of pharmaceuticals, especially and automotive industry. Ghana has taken a very good advantage of this great opportunity by moving well in our industrial sector, especially the automotive industrial sector. As I'm talking to you now, Ghana has 7 different assemblies operating in Ghana. They are operating 7 different vehicle assembly businesses in Ghana. Out of this, they are producing about 12 different brands of vehicles, which means that Ghana is ready to move to other parts of Africa to do business. I want to entreat Africa that this is a huge opportunity for us. especially not only for SMEs and those in the trade sector, but those in the industrial sector, that they should take advantage of this opportunity. I'm talking about the African Continental Free Trade Area, to get a lot of benefits, because the benefits inherent in this policy is enormous. And I guess it is time for Africa to take its rightful place in the world of business and trade, because we should not sit down for the white man to come back and exploit this opportunity, and we sitting down aloof without doing anything about it. That's how come I said that it's an opportunity for us. I have also said somewhere on a lighter note, that it's an opportunity for Africans to explore and exploit ourselves well, gain all the benefits from trading amongst ourselves. And so I see this statement by Honorable Sasu as a very important statement at this particular time, and I want to entreat every business person or any business person who is seriously into business and want to explore other countries to take advantage of this wonderful opportunity called African Continental Free Trade. With these few words, Speaker, I thank you for attention.
Thank you very much. You take the last person from leadership. Do you want to contribute? Let me give the freshman who is up on his feet. Is it Yo-Yo? Yo-Yo, let's hear you.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. This is Alas and Suleimana, the MP for Yo-Yo. With regards to the subject matter, Yo-Yo is one of the border towns, and I'm very sure that Yo-Yo, some of us, we move out of the country to do our farming, and then even bringing back the goods or the crops to your homes becomes a problem. And we also have even your animals crossing to Togo. When you go out of your country, maybe to Togo to bring them back, it becomes a serious matter. And I think this free trade would allow us to move freely without any restrictions. So I support the Honorable MP Sasu for us to work hard to make sure that this comes to reality, so that we don't just speak here and then we leave it. Thank you.
Thank you, Honorable Member for Yo-Yo. Yes, leadership. Yes, minority leadership.
Speaker, I thank you for the treasure space. Let me commend my good friend, the Honorable Member for Medina, finding the need to present this statement to the House floor. Speaker, commentaries on the statement is encouraging, and it puts matters in proper context. The Honorable Ajensen, the Honorable Asafo-Ejei, and the Honorable Haruna Idrisu have spoken well to the statement, and other colleagues that I cannot exhaust. So there are a few things I find fundamental when we are talking about trade. It comes to me as an irony that even in the face of the Mediterranean Sea, serving as a fiscal gap between Africa and Europe, other trade standards that are very repressive, fair trade standard, Eurogap standard, yet Africa finds a way to trade more with our brothers in Europe than ourselves. And for me, that is the fundamental issue that has to be dealt with. Speaker, the AfTA is the biggest trade agreement after WTO. However, many years down the line, we are still talking in terms of a narrative which is focused more on boardroom discussions. Boardroom discussions. To be able to practicalize this, get Africans to sign on to this huge trade agreement that we have to leverage on is still a matter that is still in discussion. Tariffs, which often have constituted a barrier, trade barrier, is still staring at us in our faces. Africa has the youngest, Speaker, data proves that we have the youngest population globally. And so we have no excuse for whatsoever. We have passed all the legislation. In the past decade, one can do a casual analysis of legislations that we have passed that are sensitive to trade and the enhancement of trade. The fair trade concept, the free zone concept, the economic zone concept, yet we appear to be moving in cycles as a country and also as a continent. So I think we have to change our mindset. We must change our mindset, and that is what can really get to the core of the matter and facilitate the very trade that we are looking for. Globally, we are seen as the producers of raw materials. And so until we change our mindset, all the trade agreements will be meaningless unless we change our mindset. We have to change our mindset as a continent. How come that we have all the raw materials? How come we have the biggest number of minerals, and yet we wallow in poverty, abject poverty, and still at where we are? I hope when my colleague, the Honorable Harun Idrisu, was contributing to the statement, he observed all the key personalities who have contributed to these agreements across the political divide. I want to plead with our colleagues in the NDC administration particularly. It's very revealing that this statement is coming from one of your own on your side. The NPP has set the tone. I'm not being partisan here. We set the tone. We ensured that the Secretariat was won. We are hosting the Secretariat. We have set the tone. Let it be said that one day, if you are out of power, you will add on to this agreement, and this agreement will be more meaningful, not only to Ghana, but across the frontiers of Africa. So, continue where we've left off, and let's leave a legacy that one day Africa can be proud of. On that note, I want to commend my good friend, Honorable Sosu. The President, in his acceptance speech, made a very interesting comment. Ghana belongs to a number of international bodies, and then he mentioned there is a new emerging global body called the BRICS. The President has said that Ghana, he will take concrete steps for Ghana to join the BRICS. I found that very interesting. And if it is the case, we will be waiting that the President, in the fullness of time, will give us full details on this matter. The BRICS today, globally, are commanding a lot of respect, both in trade and other diplomatic and bilateral and multilateral exchanges. We hope that decision will be made and the dividends will come to benefit not just Ghana, but our neighbors, Cote d'Ivoire, Burkina Faso, and other sister countries who live in the West Africa region. Speaker, I thank you for the space granted. I'm grateful.
Thank you very much, majority leadership. Will you say something or should move on?
Yes, Mr. Speaker. Thank you very much for the opportunity to make a contribution to the statement made by my able friend, Honorable Susu, the MP for the good people of Medina. Mr. Speaker, the statement made today is actually one of the most important statements that has been made in this House, for the simple reason that the continental Africa free trade, as leader rightly said, is actually the largest free trade area in the world today in terms of population size, in terms of geographic size, and actually in terms of member states. 54 African countries are involved in this. Mr. Speaker, if we get ourselves involved properly, especially since we have the headquarters here, we should be leading the African continental free trade. Many a times we sign an agreement, but we don't put in place the preparation that we need to be able to benefit from this agreement. AGOA comes to mind. We have signed AGOA for almost about 20 years, but you can't actually give a tangible, result that we've got from that. So we shouldn't make a mistake with this one, because this can get us out of a lot of, serious problems that we have in this country. As many contributors, including the incoming education minister, said, it is usually, Mr. Speaker, that we do sign all these agreements, but we don't put the preparatory work in place. And we keep signing this agreement, and other countries take advantage of us because they make the preparation. If you look at the rush with which we ratified this agreement, and look at how others took their time to do it, because they were putting things in place to make sure that they take a full advantage of it. We have a secretariat now, as you rightly said. Government is a continuous process. You have a secretariat now. Now what we need to do is to be able to do the proper coordination and the implementation of this African continental free trade, so we can take advantage of it. We are now involved in a pilot project, but what are the plans after this pilot project to be able to take full advantage of it? We trade very little with ourselves as a continent. Most of our businesses are done in Europe, but we don't do much with ourselves. So we need to be able to ask ourselves questions and find out the reasons why we have these challenges or these bottlenecks to be able to take advantage of this African continental free trade. Recently, they have introduced a payment system which basically allows one country to be able to import from the other without necessarily going through dollars and foreign currencies. This, if it continues, will help us to be able to stabilize our currencies so that the depreciation that we are experiencing at the moment can actually be reduced. So hopefully we will take a full advantage of it. And I should thank the maker of the statement for this fantastic statement on the African continental free trade, which will become, or African countries will all be engulfed in this, at least for the next decade. Mr. Speaker, thank you very much.
Thank you very much, Honorable Member. Let me now turn to Honorable Francis Asenso-Boakye. Incidentally, when he finishes his statement, we will invite Honorable Anthony Meyer to also read his statement. It's almost similar, so that we do the contribution together. So, Honorable Former Minister for Roads and Highways.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker, for the opportunity to address this August House on a matter of utmost national importance, the issue of post-election violence and its far-reaching consequence on our democracy and our socio-economic development. Mr. Speaker, Ghana has, over the past 3 decades, distinguished itself as a beacon of democracy in Africa, conducting 9 peaceful elections under the Fourth Republic. Our legacy of peaceful transitions, adherence to the rule of law, and protection of civil liberties has rightly earned us a place of pride in the global community. To bolster this democratic tradition, the Presidential Transition Act 2012 Act 845 provides a framework for orderly transitions of power. The 2024 transition, Mr. Speaker, adhered to these provisions admirably with commendable cooperation between the outgone and the new administrations. Against this background, Mr. Speaker, there can be no justification for acts of hooliganism, lawlessness, and unauthorized takeovers of public offices witnessed in recent weeks. The post-election violence we have witnessed, including arson, vandalism, physical assault, unlawful takeovers of state agencies, and attacks on security personnel, poses a grave threat to the peace and stability of our nation. These reprehensible acts, reportedly perpetrated by individuals allegedly affiliated with the governing party, seriously undermine our democratic progress and must be condemned in the strongest terms. Mr. Speaker, allow me to provide a few specific examples to illustrate the gravity of the situation. In the Ayesu-Ano constituency, Mr. Speaker, the satisfied supporters of the ruling party set the office of the Electoral Commission ablaze. Again, in some state institutions, including the Ghana National Gas Company, the Bui Power Authority, National Petroleum Authority, and the Ghana Ports and Harbour Authority, among others, were unlawfully invaded, and some public servants being forcefully removed from their offices. Mr. Speaker, in my own constituency of Bantama, on January 8, 2025, some known operatives of the governing party, led by the constituency executive, stormed public institutions, including the National Health Insurance Authority and the National Disaster Management Organization, forcefully ejecting staff and locking up their premises. Just last week, Mr. Speaker, a group of individuals unlawfully targeted the Metro Mass Transit Yard in Bantama, demanding control over its assets, including internally generated funds. Such actions not only disrupt governance, but also threaten the livelihoods of affected staff and the local economy. Mr. Speaker, the instances are many, and I believe colleague members have heard similar instances of politically motivated disturbances after the December elections, including in constituencies such as Domekwabenya, Ablekumanov, Ukakwe Central, Tema Central, Techiman South, in Sawam, Obuasi East, Ahafuano North, and Ahafuano Southwest. What remains uncertain is when these incidents will end to restore safety of our citizens and ensure uninterrupted business activities to bolster investor confidence. These are most unfortunate and must not be encouraged, regardless of the background of its perpetrators. The recent tragic incident in Obuasi, where some individuals wielding locally manufactured rifles, pump action guns, knives, cutlasses, axes, and machetes intruded the premises of the Anglo Gold Ashanti mine, is widely attributed to post-election violence. This unfortunately led to the burning of vehicles belonging to the private entities and individuals, as well as damages to other private assets. Mr. Speaker, these exchanges with security personnel on duty led to the unfortunate demise of some individuals, with many severely injured. It is deeply troubling that these unlawful activities continue unabated despite the President's recent public admonition. There appeared to be the lack of decisive and immediate action against the perpetrators of these crimes, which creates the impression of tolerance for lawlessness, eroding public trust in our institutions and our rule of law. While at length, Mr. Speaker, may I take the opportunity to caution our friends in the media, crucial players in our democratic process, to be circumspect in their commentaries and reportage that could fuel unlawful behavior before, during, and after elections. I therefore call on the leadership of the National Media Commission, the Ghana Journalists Association, to take decisive steps to bring members found culpable to book. Leadership demands not only rhetoric, but also decisive action. It is imperative that the government moves beyond mere condemnation to ensure that all culprits, regardless of their political affiliation, face full force of the law. Mr. Speaker, this failure in leadership has resulted in other incidents across the nation, including those that occurred just yesterday in the Bole Bamboy constituency and Ho Central constituency, which should be a significant concern for every well-meaning Ghanaian. Honorable Speaker, to safeguard our democracy and deter future occurrence of such unacceptable acts, I urge this House to consider a review of our legislative framework to impose stricter penalties and punitive measures on those who engage in unlawful conduct, including beneficiaries of their actions. Such measures will reaffirm our commitment to the rule of law and protect the integrity of our democratic process. Furthermore, I call on all stakeholders, including security agencies, civil society organizations, traditional authorities, the media, and more importantly, political leaders, to work collaboratively in addressing these menace. We owe it to the Ghanaian people to uphold the values of peace, unity, and good governance. Mr. Speaker, Ghana's democratic credentials are hard-earned, and we must not allow actions of the few to tarnish our reputation as a model of democracy in Africa. Let us act now decisively to restore order, reinforce public confidence in our institutions, and ensure that Ghana remains a shining example of good governance on our continent. To the brave young men and women out there, please do not let yourself to be used by any politician or political party to commit acts that would jeopardize your future. You deserve so much more than being a tool for distraction. Think of the dreams you hold, the goals you have set, and the brighter future that lies ahead of you. Don't throw it all away for anyone's selfish agenda. Honorable Speaker, with these few remarks, I leave this esteemed House to deliberate further, trusting in the collective wisdom of the House to guide us towards a resolution that upholds the principle we cherish and serves the greater good of all. I thank you for your attention and commend this matter to your thoughtful consideration. Thank you, Mr. Speaker.
Thank you very much.
Mr. Speaker, considering the interest on this statement, leadership we have discussed, and if we could take 4 each, and then leadership to conclude, because the interest on this statement is so.
Very well. I said I'm going to collaborate this statement with that one of Honorable Anthony Mier. So, Honorable Member for Odotobri, you may also read yours so that we discuss it together.
Mr. Speaker, thank you for granting me the opportunity to address this House on an issue that strikes at the very heart of our democracy and national development, the disturbing trend of post-election vandalism and the imperative to hold the rule of law. Mr. Speaker, elections represent a sacred process in our democracy, a process through which the people of Ghana express their will and elect leaders to steer the affairs of our nation. It is a manifestation of the sovereignty of the people and the cornerstone of our constitutional framework. However, it is with great concern and disappointment that I highlight the unfortunate acts of violence and vandalism that have over the time marred the post-election period in our country. Mr. Speaker, the acts of vandalism and lawlessness often carried out by individuals or groups who feel aggrieved by election outcomes pose a serious threat to our democracy and social stability. From the destruction of public and private property to physical assaults on individuals, these incidents not only leave a trail of pain and loss, but also undermine the progress we have made as a democratic nation. We must remember that democracy is not just about casting votes. It is about respecting the process and accepting the outcomes, whether favorable or not. In a democratic system, disagreement is natural, but resorting to violence or destruction is not acceptable. Such actions do not resolve disputes, but rather exacerbate tension, deepen divisions, and jeopardize the peace and unity of our nation. Mr. Speaker, let us consider the far-reaching impacts of post-election vandalism, the physical damage to public infrastructure, such as offices of the Electoral Commission, places an undue unburden on our already stretched national resources. For every building destroyed and property damaged, there are funds that have to be redirected from critical developmental projects to repair or rebuild. This is a cost our nation cannot afford, especially in these challenging economic times. Furthermore, the psychological impact on victims of these acts of vandalism cannot be overlooked. Citizens who lose their businesses, homes, or loved ones to such lawless behavior carry emotional scars that may never heal. We must also recognize the broader damage to our collective psyche as a nation. Every act of vandalism chips away at the trust citizens place in our democratic institutions and processes. Mr. Speaker, beyond the internal consequences, we must also consider how these incidents affect Ghana's image in the global stage. Ghana has long been lauded as a beacon of democracy and stability in Africa. However, these recent acts of post-election violence risk tarnishing that reputation and diminishing our standing as a model for other nations. We must not allow this to happen. Mr. Speaker, the rule of law is a bedrock of any functioning democracy. It ensures that all citizens, regardless of status or political affiliation, are subject to the same laws and held accountable for their actions. It is therefore imperative that we apply the law decisively and impartially to address the acts of post-election vandalism. Law enforcement agencies must be empowered and supported to investigate and prosecute individuals and groups responsible for these offenses. Mr. Speaker, impunity breeds further lawlessness. If perpetrators of vandalism are allowed to go unpunished, it sends a dangerous and wrong signal that such behavior is acceptable, emboldening others to follow suit. This vicious cycle must also be broken. At the same time, Mr. Speaker, it is important that the enforcement of the law is seen to be fair and impartial. Allegations of selective justice only serves to deepen mistrust in our institutions. Let us ensure that justice is served without fear or favor and that it is seen to be done. Mr. Speaker, whilst enforcement of the law is crucial, we must also recognize the role of political leadership in addressing this issue. Political parties and their leaders have a moral and civic duty to ensure that their supporters act responsibly and within the bounds of the law. Leadership, Mr. Speaker, is not just about winning elections. It is about setting right examples and fostering a culture of respect for democratic principles and processes. I urge all political leaders to take proactive steps to educate their supporters on the importance of peace and tolerance. They must condemn acts of vandalism in the strongest terms and demonstrate a commitment to resolving disputes through legal and peaceful means. This House is the representative of the people, must also lead by example, demonstrate unity in condemning violence and upholding the principles of democracy. Mr. Speaker, democracy is a collective effort and every citizen has a role to play in strengthening it. As citizens, we must embrace the idea that disagreement is a natural part of democratic life, but such disagreements must be expressed through lawful and constructive means. Ghana's constitution provides clear avenues for addressing electoral disputes, and these must be utilized instead of resorting to violence and destruction. I also call on civil society organizations, the media, faith-based organizations to continue their effort in promoting civic education and fostering dialogue. By educating citizens on their rights and responsibilities and by providing platform for constructive engagement, we can reduce the incidence of post-election violence and build a more peaceful society. Mr. Speaker, as I conclude, let us reflect on the words of our national anthem. I quote, "And help us to resist oppressors' rule with all our might forevermore." These words remind us of our collective responsibility to uphold the rule of law and protect the values of democracy that our fathers fought for so hard to achieve. Let us commit as a nation to reject all forms of post-election violence and vandalism. Let us work together, lawmakers, political leaders, citizens, and institutions alike, to build a Ghana where disputes are resolved through dialogue and due process and where peace and stability are cherished above all else. Mr. Speaker, Ghana stands at a crossroad. The path we choose will determine the legacy we leave for future generations. Let us choose the path of peace, unity, and respect for the rule of law. I am very grateful.
Thank you very much. Honorable members, we have two statements and the contents are almost the same. So, yes, let me begin with Honorable former Deputy Minister for Defense.
Thank you very much, Mr. Speaker. Thank you for the opportunity to contribute to the statement made by my two colleagues, the Honorable MP for Bantima and Bosome Ofreho. Mr. Speaker, Ghana indeed...
I don't think it's Bosome Ofreho, it's Odotobri.
Odotobri, sorry, Odotobri. Mr. Speaker, Ghana indeed is a beacon of democracy. We have gone through elections many times, and Ghana has had changes in its leadership many times. Ghana is a country of laws, and we are governed indeed by laws. We in this House are representatives of the people out there. And so, Mr. Speaker, it is important that when issues of vandalism, issues of arson, issues of unlawful attack on government facilities and individuals begin to rear its ugly head, it's important that members in this House take interest and try as much as possible to nip all these activities in the bud. The Honorable Member for Bantima made a lot of, or said, or gave to this House a lot of institutions which have come under attack. The sad thing, Mr. Speaker, is not just about government institutions alone, but even individuals being attacked. Mr. Speaker, I have lived it as a member of parliament for the good people of Achimakwangoma. Achimakwangoma, which used to be a very peaceful constituency, saw a very nasty incident not too long ago, where we had the chairman of the NDC and the youth organizer attacking the residence of the coordinating director of the Achimakwangoma Municipal Assembly. Their claim was that certain items were hidden in the residence of the coordinating director and that the coordinating director was going to sell them. An allegation which was false. That did not end there, Mr. Speaker. They moved to my house. What were they looking for? Fertilizer, which was non-existent. Mr. Speaker, what even saddened my heart the more was the involvement and the action of the district commander of police. Very sad. He sat on the fence, never cared. Even when I called him, he did not show interest in the matter at all. People from the side of the MPP had wanted to mobilize to, as it were, face my brothers and sisters from the other side. Mr. Speaker, this obviously would have not ended very well. And a constituency that is known to be peaceful would have been in the news for the bad reasons. Mr. Speaker, it is so unfortunate that people will resort to attacking businesses, all in the name of we are hungry, we want food. It is so unfortunate. His Excellency the President, in his inaugural speech, says something which for me was very important, that Ghana is ready for business. Mr. Speaker, we cannot attack the businesses we already have and then expect to attract new ones to come in. It doesn't work like that. And so what happened in Obuasi, for me, is something that we should be worried about as a country. Our government is in power, and so we can do whatever we want. This is not the Ghana our forefathers left us. This is not the Ghana we seek to build. This is not the Ghana that all of us can be proud of. Mr. Speaker, my fear is that if we do not act and act decisively, a time will come when the youth out there will march to this august chamber, all because they are hungry. I believe there are members in this house who are equally hungry. We cannot hide under hunger and involve or commit illegalities. That is not Ghana. And so I believe it is important that we take interest in the statement made by our two colleagues. Work to ensure that we nip this in the bud. His Excellency the President has issued an instruction that investigations be done. Mr. Speaker, it is about time that we name and shame. It is about time that we expose all those behind these activities. And so, Mr. Speaker, I will humbly call on His Excellency the President to rather institute a commission of inquiry, a commission whose proceedings will be aired live on air. If we are able to do that, those who are behind all these things will be exposed. My fear again, Mr. Speaker, is that suddenly the Ghanaian has become so courageous, so bold, that even our security agencies, who we go to and seek their support to protect us day and night, we suddenly have become so courageous and we attack them without even looking back. We've seen people trying to take guns from soldiers. Mr. Speaker, this is unacceptable. Growing up, I never knew that a civilian could be so courageous to want to take a gun from a soldier. This is really sad. If we treat soldiers like that, how do we expect them to protect us when we need them? I believe that a commission of inquiry, Mr. Speaker, will bring the truth to the fore. And I believe and I have confidence in the professionalism of the Ghanaian soldier. The soldier will not go out there to just be a gun freak and, as it were, shoot people indiscriminately. No. What happened in Obuasi is unacceptable, and Mr. Speaker, I believe that we must have a commission of inquiry to establish the truth therein. Thank you very much, Mr. Speaker.
Honorable members, I have personally enjoyed his delivery by the time, so I will urge you to be snappy so that we can make time for other things. We've already spent 2 hours on statement, but like I quoted earlier on, if you go to our standing orders 94, we are supposed to use just 1 hour for statements. So I'm extending it, but please be snappy when you get the chance to speak. So let me begin from my brother. Since you are a first timer, you mention your name and your constituency.
Thank you very much, Mr. Speaker, for this opportunity. My name is Thomas Wolanyo Chepo, Hohwe, constituency. I would like to also associate myself with the statement made by the MP, Honorable MP for Bantama, and then Odotobri. Mr. Speaker, myself, I'm a victim of political violence and vandalism. In 2020, I was a regional youth organizer for the Bono region. Before then, the entire Buranhafo. We saw a lot of violence, vandalism of public properties, and a lot. In Techiman, we go to Doma West. I believe we have the Doma West MP here. That was where I was slapped. You go to Ayawaso, the by-election. All this happened in the previous administration. So I would have wished this statement came earlier than this. I know if it had been like that, we wouldn't have been witnessing what we are witnessing in the country today.
There was an invasion of a court in Kumasi because of the actions and the comments of some political players. It encouraged a lot of people, a lot of youth, to do more than others did. I believe if we, the political players, take action, stand on our ground, punish one or two people, others will be scared to do same or attempt to do similar when the opportunity comes on their table. The Kumasi invasion, the Kumasi court invasion, for instance, when you hear comments from some of the regional chairmen, it is not worth hearing, Mr. Speaker. The fines given to them, a judge who was molested, who was beaten, dragged out of the courtroom, the fines that were given to these people, 1,500 to go and pay. There and there, the regional chairman paid the fines. That encouraged others. Yes, we also have the tape, Mr. Speaker. All these things happen without comment from the former majority, without comment from the presidency. Mr. Speaker, 4 people died in Techiman. Up to date, our former president, who was then the president, no comment came from him up to date. All this, Mr. Speaker, encouraged. All this, Mr. Speaker, encourage others to do. Because
Honorable members, please, this is a comment. If you begin to come by way of point of order, I can tell you. So he will just conclude. You get the opportunity to speak. Or if you will stay and say, let me hear you. Honorable member, hold on. Yes, member for Menchia South.
I stand on order 92, 93, 93.5. 93.5. Keep quiet. Mr. Speaker has my time. Mr. Speaker, a member may comment on the statement for a period not exceeding 5 minutes, and the comment shall not provoke debate. Mr. Speaker, what he's doing is clearly provoking a debate, because it is going to compel us. Yes. Mr. Speaker, this is a house of record. Mr. Speaker, this is a house of record. He is traveling in a very dangerous waters. We have no choice but to respond to him. So, Mr. Speaker, very respectfully, especially where some of the things he's saying cannot be substantiated or proven. Mr. Speaker, very respectfully, this is my humble submission.
Honorable members, please, like he said, I'm not saying retract anything, but let's, because this thing going on, it affects everybody. It's affecting our democracy. So please, let's discuss it dispassionately. I know it has not just happened, it has happened before, but please let us be candid and discuss it in such a way that it will send a very good message out there for whatever is going on to stop. So let's discuss it with this thing in mind. Please, let's conclude from your contribution.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. To conclude, as I've earlier said, I'm a victim, and I know how it feels to go through this. That is why I'm very passionate about it. But what I'm trying to conclude with is the political players sometimes are behind, not by ordering them to do what they've been doing, but their posture. An example was what I was giving. The president, who never commented on the Ayawaso West Wagon shooting, the Tichima killings,
the Doma, Obuasi, and no, not not Obuasi. Obuasi, the president issued a statement. Obuasi, the president issued a statement. But, Mr. Speaker, all I would like to end with is to thank President Mahama for being bold and directing the IGP to investigate, to investigate all what happened in 2020, so that the perpetrators will be punished. Mr. Speaker, this is the only way that will send a signal to those who want to do same in the future. Thank you, Mr. Speaker.
Thank you. Yes. Let me come to Honorable Mustafa.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker, for the opportunity to contribute to the statement eloquently made by the MP for Bantama, Honorable Asensu Boachi, and also the Honorable Member for Odotobri on the disturbing security situation in our country post-election 2024. Mr. Speaker, thanks to His Excellency the President of the Republic, the former President Nana Addo Dankwa Akufo-Addo, the 2024 election was conducted under conducive atmosphere of peace, leading to the declaration of President John Dramani Mahama as the winner. Prior to the official declaration of President Mahama as the winner, our former Vice President, Dr. Mahamudu Bawumia, graciously conceded defeat and called on his main opponent, President Mahama, and conceded. This remarkable move by the former Vice President explained that it was to avert any tension and also to cement the peaceful electoral process, which has received commendation from international organizations, global leaders, and also civil societies organizations. However, Mr. Speaker, notwithstanding all these peaceful overtures and peaceful transfer of power, Ghana continued to be threatened by some violent supporters of the NDC across the country. These hooligans have unleashed unrestrained mayhem on public institutions, innocent Ghanaians, chasing them out of their offices in many instances. For example, Mr. Speaker, in my own constituency, Yagaba Kubaro constituency, some miscreants attack the district assembly office, lock up the place, and sack all the staff from the assembly. Mr. Speaker, just yesterday, some NDC youth, violence youth, invaded my house. Invaded my house. Mr. Speaker, invaded my house to just because
honorable members.
Ugly scene.
Honorable, hold on. Honorable members, you know why I try to decline any point of order, so that we can have a very congenial discussion. He's talking about his personal experience that we should allow, so that if somebody also has, we need to curb this issue. So if he has a personal, I don't think it's anything bad that. But please, honorable members, as I'm not taking any interjections, the same way I'll not take any interjection from any side. So honorable, yes.
Yesterday, Mr. Speaker, thank you so much. Just yesterday,
Honorable Andrew,
some violent
Andrew, resume your seat.
Invaded my house just because I personally purchased some wooden electricity poles that I'm going to use to support some communities within my constituency. Mr. Speaker, such ugly scenes have been repeated in many institutions, including security installations and also the Baba Yara Sports Stadium. Mr. Speaker, the Baba Yara Sports Stadium in Kumasi is where the National Sports Authority staff operates from. And immediately after the election, we saw some violent youth go into the sports stadium, sacking all the staff of the National Sports Authority staff from their office. Mr. Speaker, the staff were all sacked in the full glare of the security of this country. The Ghana police watched this happen without any arrest. Mr. Speaker, this act of violence is a serious threat to the peace of our country, and it is worrying the government, the new government. The NDC has not been able to take any action to restrain their supporters from this act of violence across the country. Mr. Speaker, His Excellency President Nana Addo Dankwa Akufo-Addo handed over a peaceful country to President John Dramani Mahama. He handed over a peaceful country to President John Dramani Mahama, and he has to take steps to ensure that if he cannot improve on the security situation, he should try and maintain what His Excellency Nana Addo Dankwa Akufo-Addo handed over to him. I want to therefore call on His Excellency the President to prioritize the security situation of our country by taking action over the increase in violence and lawlessness being displayed by his party members. Mr. Speaker, I'm not surprised to see just yesterday in Bole, when the violent youth of NDP attacking in the president's own hometown, attacking and burning ties just because of appointments. Mr. Speaker, just because of appointments.
Thank you.
And also even threatening the president that they will go to his family house to burn it. Mr. Speaker, this cannot continue in this beautiful country called Ghana, and this must stop.
Thank you.
This must stop. Mr. Speaker, with these few words, I want to thank you for the opportunity, and also to thank my colleagues, especially Bantama Asansu-Boakye, for making this very, very important statement. Thank you so much.
Let him give the opportunity to you.
Thank you, Mr.
Speaker,
for the opportunity. Mr. Speaker, my name is Alfred Nikote Ashi, the Member of Parliament for Ododo-Diodio constituency. Mr. Speaker, I want to thank you for the opportunity to comment on the statement that has been made here.
Please speak up
in the House. Thank you. Mr. Speaker, violence, vandalism, vigilantism, and what have you. Yes, we have recorded several of its kind in the history of our fourth Republican democracy. Mr. Speaker, you will recall that Ododo-Diodio as a constituency has had its numerous share of violence activities. For the first time also in our history, it is recorded that Ododo-Diodio went for an election without a single bloodshed. I believe that the challenge we have had as a country regarding vigilantism is the will to take the bull by the horn and crack the whip where it ought to be cracked. I stand here saying proudly that I cautioned my people that whosoever is found culpable in any act of violence, whether from my NDC side or from the MPP side, will be dealt with in accordance with the law. And of course, realizing how ready, able, and willing I was to ensure that we went for the first time on the violence-free elections. I believe what we have suffered as a country is the lack of political will Yes, of course, Mr. Speaker. Traversing certain waters has the capacity or the tendency to erupt arguments, yes. But the truth will always be the truth. If we fail to crack the whip, we give others the belief that they can also do same and go scot-free. If in the past, people were dealt with when they went, rampaging, I'm sure others would have taken a cue. So what I want to say is that if we want to stop this act of violence and vandalism, I believe the law should be made to work regardless of which political party is in administration. Finally, I want to assure the House that I trust His Excellency the President, John Dramani Mahama, to crack the whip. There are countless examples where he has made people within his own administration to face the rigors of the law, and he will do it again. But mind us, he is going to start from Ayawaso West Wagon and what have you before we get to where we are. Thank you, Mr. Speaker.
Yes, let me come to a member for Damango.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Thank you, Right Honorable Speaker. Mr. Speaker, let me begin by thanking my friend and colleague, the Honorable Francis Asensubuachi, Member of Parliament for Bantama, Mr. Speaker, for bringing such an important matter on the floor of the House. Mr. Speaker, the statement made by the Honorable Member of Parliament and the subject he has so eloquently contributed to and analyzed is absolutely important. Mr. Speaker, Ghana is a democracy. And indeed, Mr. Speaker, within this fourth Republican dispensation, we have had several changes of government through the ballot box. And Mr. Speaker, it is important that our democracy grows. And it's absolutely important that we do not have a situation where it is almost being unanimously agreed upon by the pundits that this probably is turning out to be one of the worst transitions, where we've had so many post-election violence. Mr. Speaker, it's been reported that even civil servants, private citizens in their homes, who had been mistaken by political thugs as MPP ex-ministers, have been attacked in this country. And Mr. Speaker, this is a very, very important matter. Mr. Speaker, if I'm to be blunt, the country is in a state of fear. People are very, very afraid. And indeed, its consequences on investor confidence. Mr. Speaker, imagine a country in which, the sitting president himself is being threatened. Mr. Speaker, we also saw the video where His Excellency President Mahama is being threatened by his own constituents. Some of us are beginning to evaluate how we can come in, how we can restore calm in those parts of the country. How will an investor come into the country? So I want to underscore the point, but the statement made, Mr. Speaker, is one that all and sundry must come on board. In my own constituency of Damango, Mr. Speaker, on the 8th of December, after an election had been conducted peacefully, free and fair, transparent elections, just before collation, political party hoodlums and thugs attacked the offices of the Electoral Commission, burned the office of the Electoral Commission down, Mr. Speaker, put Damango under siege, and in the process, my own friend, Mr. Mukaila Ziblim of Zongo Lembonto electoral area, was killed. He lost his life, Mr. Speaker. And I don't want to give other examples. Anglo Gold Ashanti, a company in which when I had the privilege of being Minister for Lands and Mines, we worked so hard to convince them and incentivize them to invest more than $1 billion United States dollars in Obuasi to build Anglo Gold Ashanti. Mr. Speaker, we also happening in Obuasi. Today, Ghana has hit the unprecedented output of gold of 6 million ounces. So, Speaker, I still have my contacts within the mining industry. Chief executives are scared. Workers in mining companies are scared. Investors are scared. Today, the mining in Daba is about to begin in South Africa. And the report that is being made of our country in South Africa is that Ghana is not a safe investment destination for mining, because mining concessions are being attacked blatantly. Mr. Speaker, I want to make the point. Mr. Speaker, I want to make the point that all of us must speak against it. The minority must speak against it. Mr. Speaker, the majority must speak against it. Religious leaders must speak against it. Civil society leaders must speak against it. Ordinary citizens must speak against it. Mr. Speaker, when Ghana is safe, secured, and protected, it is safe, secured, and protected for all Ghanaians, not MPP Ghanaians, not NDC Ghanaians. Mr. Speaker, under the first government of the Fourth Republic under President Rawlings, we never saw this. Mr. Speaker, the second government of President Kufuor, Ghanaians never saw this. Mr. Speaker, under President Atamis, Ghanaians never saw this. Mr. Speaker, indeed, under President Mohammed's first government, we didn't see this. President Akufo-Addo's government, we did not see this. Mr. Speaker, 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 I want to conclude. Mr. Speaker, I want to conclude by reiterating my call to all and sundry in Ghana. Mr. Speaker, I'm concerned for myself, Samuel Abu-Jinapor. I'm concerned for all Ghanaians, and I'm concerned for my brothers and sisters. Indeed, I'm concerned for the new Minister for Energy, John Jinapor, because he can be mistaken for Abu-Jinapor and killed one day in this country out of this violence. So all and sundry should come on board for us to keep this country safe. Let us help President Mahama to secure this country. And I conclude, Mr. Speaker, by referring this House to the German theologian, Mr. Speaker, Martin Niemöller, during the Nazi regime, when he uttered a famous quote, which has been most often cited. And Mr. Speaker, with your permission, I quote. The German theologian Martin Niemöller said, and I quote, "First they came for the communists, and I did not speak out. Then they came for the socialists, and I did not speak out. Then they came for the trade unionists, and I did not speak out. Then they came for the Jews, and I did not speak out. And when they came for me, there was no one left to speak out." End quote. Mr. Speaker, I thank you for your attention.
Thank you. Yes.
Oh, thank you, Mr. Speaker. Mr. Speaker, I also say thank you to Honorable Bantama and Odotobri, and to add my voice, I'm Honorable Kumaken Tamponov. Mr. Speaker, it is said, justice delayed is justice denied. What are we now talking about today? Mr. Speaker, National Security Coordinator in Ashanti region was chased out of his office. But nobody ever bothered to speak out. And that led to court issues and people went and bailed people. Mr. Speaker, I continue. He who comes with equity must always come with clean hands. The makers of the statement, I thank you for coming up at this time.
Honorable members, please.
Mr. Speaker, I'm never disturbed by their noise. I'm going on. Mr. Speaker, we are not to be frightened by heckling. We must say them as they are. We fixed the slogan under Nana Adodankwa Akufo-Addo, His Excellency, that see something, say something. Ayawaso West Wagon, a committee of inquiry was instituted. The findings in abundance. What action was taken? What happened? My brother, you can continue to pretend. It is good. You are now bringing it out. We will all have to say it as it is and now save Ghana from it. Mr. Speaker, I'm an old Tamascan. Honorable just immediate past finance minister, was my mate in sixth form. Mr. Speaker, when Nanado took over, toilets in Tamale were taken over. You are aware. Even toilets were taken over. Nanado, before Nanado handed over, people started disturbances. And what did His Excellency John Mahama tell him? He told him that they were still in governance. His Excellency John Dramani Mahama told His Excellency Bawumia that he was still in charge. So they should rather tell the people, they should let the Security Act. When did John Mahama take over? When did His Excellency John Dramani Mahama take over? We are all to be blamed. If we accept that we are all to be blamed and go in unison to save this country, let's say so. Let's not begin to defend any regime because we have all erred. And the little ones, look at their fathers. The MPP erred, and so the people are encouraged to continue. The father we now have, the daddy we now have, the Asumdwe Hene's son, His Excellency John Dramani Mahama, is beginning to fix it. He has authorized the IGP to immediately commence investigation into these things and act. And that is the leader we have gotten. That is the leader we want. That is the leader Ghanaians have confided in. The system will change. Things will become sober. Thank you, Mr. Speaker, for the opportunity.
Honorable Ntim Fojo. Unfortunately, I've been given a list to go by.
Thank you, Honorable Speaker, for giving me the opportunity to contribute to this very important statement that is of utmost concern to all of us. And at the outset, to thank the Honorable Member for Bantama, Honorable Asensu Boachi, and the Honorable Member for Dotobri for bringing this matter to the fore. But firstly, I would like to signal our sympathies to the families of all the lives that were lost in the unfortunate post-election violence that took place in all the constituencies that these rather dastardly acts occurred, and in particular the lives that were lost in the Obuasi incident. Mr. Speaker, a society is a reflection of the advocacy that leaders always champion. And the post-election violence that we are seeing is a reflection or a culmination of the pre-election instigations that political actors clearly in their campaign and through various media channels were instigating their supporters. So they were emboldened right from the time of campaign. And it is so unfortunate that anybody would want to attempt to equalize under which regime or under which transition that how many numbers of incidents of post-election violence took part. We should not be proud as political parties to be recounting the number of incidents of post-election violence, the number of offices that were burnt down, the number of lives that were lost in various regimes, and to recount which one did outdid the other. It is most shameful for us to go on that trajectory. Today, an NDC president may be threatened by his own supporters, but must we sit unconcerned because we are MPP members of parliament? No. Today, the NDC office in Ho may have been burnt down by NDC supporters. Must we sit unconcerned because we are MPP members of parliament? No. Regardless the political affiliation of the lives that are lost, we must come to a point where as a country we will resolve that never again must any single life be lost during or post-elections. Mr. Speaker, what we are witnessing particularly this year is a serious affront to our sterling democratic credentials. One Samuel Huntington, a famous American political scientist, the one of his proteges is the famous Fareed Zakaria, proceeded that for a country to be deemed as their democratic credentials, to be deemed as consolidating, they must pass the 2 turnover test. We have long passed 2 turnover tests. We have had successful elections that have culminated in successful 5 turnovers. We should be proud that we should be at a point where our democracy should be a beacon for other countries to emulate around the world. This is not a time to be dwindling our gains. If you embolden your supporter to be ready to take over through hunger or through force, through violence, when you win, this is exactly what you will see. And for assets that belong to private enterprises to be assaulted, to result in a clash that will result in loss of lives is most condemnable. Even more condemnable are the media houses, which were emboldened by political actors to be spewing such agitations and incitations that culminated in this. I have heard the president give directives for investigation, but we do not have as a house the details to how this investigation will be done, which committee is probing, and which institution is leading the charge. How transparent is the probe? And the scale to which this post-election violence has taken is even much bigger than the one that occurred in Nyawaso West Wagon that necessitated and occasioned a commission of inquiry. We are expecting a commission of inquiry. But as a house, we have the powers, Mr. Speaker, and Mr. Speaker, rightly so respectfully, you have the powers to direct this house to constitute a bipartisan committee to probe into the many incidents of endless post-election violence that has characterized the beginning of the tenure of President Akufo-Addo, President Mohammed's second coming. Mr. Speaker, we must as a country condemn these acts, but as we are so mindful at bringing perpetrators to book, even equal repugnance must be meted out at the political actors who incited these ones. And so I dare say that we are looking forward for a direction for a bipartisan committee to be constituted by this House with members from both sides of the aisle to visit Obuasi, to visit Ho, to visit Boli Bamboy, to ensure that key actors in these matters are invited and interrogated with the support of the relevant security agencies. We all, particularly as members of parliament, key actors of our political enterprise, must ensure that we lead the charge. It is a threat to life and security. It is a threat to our national cohesion. And we cannot sit down for a time when this nation will be taken over by political actors who have won elections and who, through various acts of violences, will be dictating who must go into an office and who must be booted out of office. Mr. Speaker, the ultimate beneficiaries of these atrocities are the people who are going to be the next CEOs and the next ministers and the next so whatnots. Because in most cases, oftentimes, the perpetrators who will be wielding all forms of weapons at various state institutions may not even have the qualification to become the next head of that institution. And therefore, beneficiaries to such acts must also bow down their heads in shame and ensure that we lead the charge, we walk the talk, that as a peaceful country, we will have peaceful elections and post-elections to consolidate our democratic credentials. I thank you very much.
Honorable, let me give it to Andrew. Honorable Professor Ezebayu, please, let me give it to Andy, then I'll come to leadership.
Thank you so much, Mr. Speaker. At long last, I have been given the opportunity. Let me appreciate you for this opportunity. Mr. Speaker, I don't intend to be on my feet for long, but just to let my colleagues on the other side know that Ghanaians are very, very discerning. Ghanaians have their eyes wide open. Ghanaians have their ears on the ground. And Ghanaians know the difference between the MPP and the NDC. And so no matter what they say, Ghanaians know that if we talk about violence, it is the MPP. Mr. Speaker, even the demeanor of the former president, Akufo-Addo, the demeanor, his appearance, his attitude, and that of President John Mahama, the differences are clear. Mr. Speaker, the Honorable Yusuf, former minister responsible for sports, said a group of NDC youth went to his house and vandalized his light post or whatever. Mr. Speaker, let me make him aware that those light posts, I'm sure the young guys who went to his house, some of them are MPP guys who believe that those posts.
Sit down.
Mr. Speaker, let Mr. Speaker give. Honorable members, please. We said the gun rules. So that is why I didn't allow any interjection. No, Minister, honorable members. I mean, when you were talking, nobody interjected. That. Yes, honorable Andrew, please conclude for us.
Mr. Speaker, one thing we must know is that President Mama is not here to defend himself. We are here on behalf of President Mama, and if his name is mentioned 100 times, we'll be up 100 times to defend him. Mr. Speaker, one fact we must know is that as Ghanaians, we all need peace to develop. But Mr. Speaker, whether I get or not, I would always defend my president because I know he is a peaceful man. I know that anytime NDC is in government, we see progress. Anytime NDC is in government, we see peace. But let the MPs know that. Let the MPs know that what happened in Bole and what happened in Ho has nothing to do with post-election violence. Have they soon forgotten? Have they soon forgotten that 8 people died in Techma South? Have they forgotten? Have they still forgotten about the Ayahuasca West Wagon issue? If you are talking about violence, you do not have any right to stand in the chamber and equate the violence of MPP to those of the NDC. Mr. Speaker, like I said, I will not keep long on my feet, but let me conclude by telling the MPP MPs that no matter what they say, no matter the kind of smell that they want to put on President Mama is as clean, President Mama is as pure, President Mama is one of the gentlemen that we can all. It's a fact. Let me conclude by advising my younger brother. Let me conclude by advising my younger brother Abu Jinapo. Honorable Abu Jinapo, one thing we must know is that what happened in Obuasi is not political. Today you want to take advantage of whatever. It's not political. Today you want to take advantage because you have lost elections. You want to take advantage of that and let it sound as if it is the MDC that pushed the youth that way.
Thank you, Honorable.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker.
Now
but whatever they have planned will not wash. They can disturb, but we will have government business go on.
Thank you. Now leadership.
Thank you. They mentioned Bole Bamboy, and I'm here to.
No. Honorable member for Bole Bamboy, please. Bole, please. I beg of you. Whatever you want, share with your leadership. No. Share with your leadership. Yes, honorable minority leadership.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker, for the opportunity to contribute
on the statement Post-Election Violence and its Impact on Our Democracy and Socio-Economic Development by the Honorable Member of Parliament for Bantama. Mr. Speaker, post-election violence should not be encouraged by anyone. Post-election violence should be condemned by all. Post-election violence should not be entertained by us. Mr. Speaker, and if you observe, you see the trend of the contribution. Mr. Speaker, you see that our colleagues from the other side is rather encouraging post-election violence. Their comments indicate and suggest that they have no problem with the violence that is going on in our country. About 4 of them on their feet, none of them have condemned the post-election violence. They rather seek to justify, they rather seek to support, they rather seek to encourage that there is nothing wrong with what is going on. Mr. Speaker, if political parties from 92, we've changed hands, both NDC and PP, in 2000, in 2008, in 2016, and in 2024. It should not be the case that wherever there is a change of power from one political party to the other, we should experience election violence. It should not be the case. But our colleagues, from the way and their posture, is suggesting that whatever is going on in the country, they are in full support of it. And it is normal, and it is something they are encouraging their people to do. Mr. Speaker, I want to call on the youth of this country. I want to call on the youth of this country that as a matter of fact and agency, if they are encouraged by any political player or any political leader to involve or get involved in this act, must stop immediately. They should rather seek to get jobs. They must rather seek to be able to place themselves very well and look for opportunity. Mr. Speaker, the youth of the NDC will not be the only people who are disappointed. In this house so far, President Mahama have made 42 appointments, ministerial appointments. Out of that, only 28 are MPs. He left with 18 from his 16. And you are 183, including the independent, to make 187. So you will not be the only people who will be disappointed, the NDC youth. Your MPs will equally be disappointed. They will equally be disappointed. Over 120 of them will be disappointed. Mr. Speaker, they said they are the NDC majority. The NDC majority, Mr. Speaker, are 183. As we sit here, because of the disappointment, we have only 45 in the chamber. Only 45 in the chamber as we speak. And you are 183. Mr. Speaker, in my own constituency on election day, Mr. Speaker, my constituency on election day, Tolon constituency, by 10 to 11, the youth, NDC youth, have taken the law into their hands and blocked the road in Yankpala, denying voters the opportunity to leave Tamale to come to Tolon to vote. They brought daylight, and they did that with violence. They did that. People who were coming had to turn back. That resulted into someone losing his life. A life lost in this election is a life, or it is something we must all condemn. And because of the acts of our colleagues or our NDC friends, it is actually causing a lot of problems. Mr. Speaker, my warehouse, personal warehouse, I was not a government minister. My warehouse in Tamale was attacked. They stole over 50 motorbikes. I was not a government. That is branded in my name. They took a lot of things away. As of yesterday, some of them were arrested yesterday because one funny thing about my motorbikes is that I bought it and branded it in a particular name. It is not in the market for sale. So if you steal it, we will get. As of yesterday, the police arrested 2 people. Not only that, they went to my personal house to attack my house. Why? Because I have won an election. Why? Because NDC is now in power. If we encourage this, should it be the case
that any time there is power change, that another political party win, they should attack the other people. It should not be encouraged at all. My brother, Honorable Boale, is here. If he encouraged people to attack my house, should it be the case that when MPP win, I should also encourage people to attack? Mr. Speaker, it must stop. My brother Boale is itching to make me invite him into the debate, and which I am very careful not to do. Mr. Speaker, I want to join my colleagues in conclusion. I want to join my colleagues to condemn this act. I want to join my colleagues to also say that, Speaker, the statement must not stop here. I urge you for us to form a committee, bi-partisan committee of parliament, because the directive of the president is to the effect that they should investigate from 2020 and 2024. And 2020 and 2024 was not the only election where there was violence or people lost their life. And for that matter, Mr. Speaker, I rest my comment here, and then also pray that my colleagues join us to condemn this and call their supporters to order. This will not help anyone. I thank you, Mr. Speaker.
Thank you so much. Honourable members, is majority leadership yielding to honourable member for no? No. If you are yielding to him, I don't have any problem.
Mr. Speaker, they mentioned his name when he was not here.
Honourable member, you know I wouldn't accede to that. I'm saying if you are yielding the leadership position to him, fine, I'll give him the position. But other than that,
Mr. Speaker, let him defend himself. Then I speak as a leader.
No. You are yielding the position to him.
Mr. Speaker, they mentioned his name.
Honourable Comfort.
His name was mentioned when he was not
Honourable Comfort, I have said I am not granting that application. You either talk as a leader or you yield it to him.
Mr. Speaker, let him defend his name so that I speak as a leader.
Honourable leader, please, you don't need to fight over this. I have already ruled. I'm saying no. You either speak as a leader or you yield it to him.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker, to add my voice to the statement made on the floor of Parliament about violence. Mr. Speaker, I just want you to put a mirror here for each and everyone to go and look into the mirror to see who are the perpetrators when it comes to violence. Mr. Speaker, violence started in this country when we were going to do the Etiwa by-elections. That is where we saw serious violence in this country. Etiwa Yechire Bibi Kakra, we have 2 boys. All die, be die. That is what sparked the youth at that time, and they realized that, look, let us all involve ourselves in this violence because even our leaders are examples. Mr. Speaker, when MPP won the elections, we were all in Ghana here. Never in the history of Ghana, when His Excellency President Rawlings left power and we handed over to President Kufuor, there was no violence. When Atta Mills came and we handed over to His Excellency John Dramani Mahama, there was no violence. There was peace in this country. Journalists can go about, do their work, TV stations, attack government. Nobody chased and arrest them. So the former president, Nana Akufo-Addo, came to power, and his time was the time that we experienced. Even speaking alone is something that they will come after you, and every man in this country turned to a woman. All leaders Please speak, that they stop speaking. Mr. Speaker, they started it, and today is hunting them. Which people went first to attack people in their house? Go and ask John Jinapor. When we lost the election, he was attacked in his house. Go and ask Dr. Yine, he was attacked in his house. Go and ask the former ministers, they were attacked in their house. So it was leadership by example. What you taught them is what they are doing now. So if today there is a new government who is against violence, now I can tell you boldly that now journalists can criticize free of charge and they will not be held responsible. Journalists can talk now and nobody will change them because we have a peaceful president. We have somebody who is always preaching peace and giving freedom to people to speak their mind. Mr. Speaker, today, MPP is complaining. They are complaining. They have forgotten. Even they went to the court to even pull a judge from her seat. They even went to court. We saw the videos, chasing people left and right. Ayawasu West Wagon, have they forgotten? We are all guilty when it comes to violence. As politicians, we are all guilty when it comes to violence. So let's change our character now. Mr. Speaker, all of us are guilty.
Conclude.
All of us are guilty. So we should all change the way we will do our things. Leadership by example. His Excellency John Dramani has come and they will see how peaceful Ghana will be. They will see how peaceful elders in our community can come out and criticize government without attack. They will see how peaceful youth will be on the street and they won't be attacked. So they should learn from His Excellency John Dramani Mahama and make sure we have a peaceful Ghana. Mr. Speaker, thank you for the opportunity. And Mr. Speaker, my colleague will conclude for me.
Thank you.
Yes, I'm very grateful
honorable
for the
members.
opportunity to conclude.
Honorable members, no. Honorable members. Honorable members, please indulge me to suspend the House we are coming back at 5 o'clock. The House stands suspended.